Blog Talk Radio.
First World Order Radio, finally, we are on the air. No doubt. All right.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio.
We get on into some of that order consciousness tonight.
First World Order Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m.
We got to talk about what is taking place on the planet.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio. First, we need to let you know we're going to be doing more shows, giving out more information on Wednesdays. Wednesday at 8 o'clock, we are now going to make this the hottest day of the week.
Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the root based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it. Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the root based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it.
You need to understand how magical this something like this every Wednesday can become. So you need to start getting your calendar right, get your schedule right. You need to know our intentions straight out.
All right, so these clues are given throughout the various languages was to piece the puzzle of this ancient mystery school back together again.
And what we plan on doing, both of us, is bringing y'all some surefire dynamite. We're going to take this level up a notch. We're going to have stuff to do here. This is not just going to be about philosophies and theories, shit that works.
You have an activated pineal gland in which I produced this black chemical called melanin.
What we did was gave a hard line in the sand between the different definitions of esoteric study, exoteric study. Playtime is over.
Peace. Back once again with your host, Dr. Alain Bey. First World Radio, no doubt we're back once again. All right, we have a special guest tonight, Professor Walter Williams. If you don't know who he is, then you must have been under a rock. He is the phenomenal author of the books Historical Origin of Christianity, as well as also Historical Origin of Islam. He's back once again with us. Brother Walter Williams, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, Brother Bay.
All right. Appreciate you coming on tonight.
I'm glad to be here. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
All right. Appreciate that. I'm going to bring on my co-host, Brother Valentine-El. Are you here?
I tell you, Washington East. Dr.
Yeah, I tell you, Washington East. All right. How you doing tonight?
Doing well, brother. How you doing? How you doing, Brother Williams?
I'm doing fine, Brother Zayn.
All right, brother. Well, all right.
All right. Well, I know we're going to get into the deception of Greek history, plagiarism, as well as also the three dirty religions, as we would say, and plus more. So, Professor Williams, you can also begin now when you're ready. Professor Williams, can you hear me?
I can hear you pretty well, brother. I don't know about Professor Williams.
Right. I don't know. Hopefully he didn't get cut off or anything. Professor Williams, are you here? Okay. I don't know what happened, brother. L.
I don't know either.
Let me see if I can get him back on here.
Okay.
All right, but how you been doing otherwise?
I've been good.
All right, that's good. That's good. For those that don't know, we have our convention coming up, and that's March 18th, 19th, and 20th. For those interested, give us a call at 910-364-9099. That's 910-364-9099. And you can definitely come out for those 3 days. It's going to be myself lecturing and a few other people, in which that you're going to get a phenomenal amount of information. As you know, we go deep, so you will learn everything from the science of law to metaphysics to the science of healing during those 3 days. So, get yourselves ready. There's a donation of $150. You can go to the website, www.dralemelbay.com, to the calendar of events, and read more about it, the hotels, the stay, the tents on the land, however you want to do it. You just tell us, and we'll try to accommodate you the best we can. For all 3 days, that is, that's drinks, that's food, and shelter. Whether it's being provided by us or whether you get it from a hotel or motel, Holiday Inn, whatever. So so it's up to y'all. All right. So once again, for those interested in the coming up convention, that's United Washita annual convention, as well as also Halo Wings Institute Health and Wellness Expo. All right. So give us a call, 910-364-9099, and come on out and check us out. Brother L, you have
I'm back at you, Brother Bay.
All right. Here we go.
All right. Okay, brother. Glad to have you back on.
Right. I don't know what happened, but it happened.
Right. It happened. Right. I think this happened the last time, but I'm glad you're back.
Okay.
All right. I know you wanted to go into some deceptions of the Greek history. I know from what we talked about, their plagiarism, how some of these individuals perhaps never even existed. Euripides, Herodotus, Aristotle, Socrates, So let's I guess we can begin there.
Okay. Well, first you have to realize that Greeks does not have a historical beginning for their history, or let me put it a little further than that. Europeans does not know a beginning history for themselves. Let's take it back. The European history started with the Greeks when the Greeks entered ancient Egypt in 332 BCE with the entrance of Alexander the Greek. That was the beginning of all European history. Prior to that, there's no known history for the Europeans, and that includes the Greeks. So let's start from that point. Europeans did not develop in Europe simply because they had no institutions, nor did they have an alphabet to have an institution to develop. So therefore, where did the Europeans under the Greeks and the Romans develop? In Africa, in Egypt, with our ancestors, being around our ancestors, etc., etc. So I want to clear that up. The second thing I want to bring out is this about Europeans. Europe has only been with an alphabet or with literacy, let me put it like that, for 619 years. That's it. Starting in 1397, when a African scholar by the name of Manuel Chrysaorus went to Florence, Italy, He was born in Constantinople, Turkey, which is Istanbul, Turkey today. And he taught at the world's first Christian church, which is the Hagia Sophia in Northeast Africa. And he, in 1397, 3 years prior to the beginning of the European Renaissance era, he went to a curia. The word curious, C-U-R-I-A, means college in Florence, Italy, to introduce the rudiments of the ABCs of the Greek alphabet. So he was the one that launched that Renaissance era for the Europeans. And I'm bringing that out in my third book that my wife and I, we are writing together. I'm bringing that out in this particular book. So let's say that Europeans began literacy in Europe. They only had it for 619 years, with this year, 2016. So anything else about the Europeans, they had no alphabet to write with. They were not literate. Our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, were the only literate people on planet Earth during the time of antiquity, which means ancient times. The reason being that they were the only literate people because they created the world's first alphabet. And an alphabet makes an individual literate. With that alphabet, you are able to read, write, and spell. So they were the only literate people because they created an alphabet to make themselves literate. And they had the only institutions in the world. Another thing we have to realize, that our ancestors, ancient Egyptians, never lived in jungles, caves, tents, or huts. They lived in brick buildings. They had planned city dwellings. And in other words, they were called nomes at that time. And they were cities, just like we have cities today. And within the cities, they had a school system that is known as the temple system. That's where they taught their children throughout Egypt in their temple system. So that is some of the foundation that we really have to really understand. So the Europeans did not plagiarize anything, only when they created their institutions beginning in the Renaissance era. Now, you spoke of Socrates, which is 6th century. Socrates died in 5th century. Teacher of Plato. Plato, 5th century, died in 4th century. Teacher of Aristotle, 4th century, died in the 3rd century. And then you had Herodotus, supposed to be the father of European history. You had Euripides, who supposedly written Greek tragedy. And then you had Homer, supposedly written the Iliad and the Odyssey in the 9th century, which is 800. And then you have Hippocrates, supposed to be the father of medicine, and so forth and so on. Now, all these names that I just mentioned never walked the earth as human beings. Now, I'll tell you why. When the Greeks came into Egypt under Alexander the Great, they forced the Greek language on our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians being a literate people, meaning that they had an alphabet, like I mentioned before. And they learned the Greek language, and they applied an alphabet to the Greek language. So therefore, the Greeks themselves never had an alphabet, but it was the Greek language that an alphabet was applied to by our African ancient Egyptian ancestors. So therefore, today, as a misnomer, you have out in the world today a Greek alphabet, but it wasn't produced by any Greeks. It was produced by our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, after learning the Greek language from the Greeks entering Egypt under Alexander the Great, forcing the language on them, and they applied an alphabet to it. So that was in the 4th century, 332, around in that area, in the 4th century. Now, all these names I mentioned, Socrates, 6th century, died in the 5th century. Plato, Socrates was supposed to be the teacher of Plato. Plato, 5th century, died in the 4th century. Plato was supposed to be the teacher of Aristotle. Born in the 4th century, died in the 3rd century. Aristotle was supposed to be the teacher of Alexander the Greek, and this Alexander the Greek was supposed to have created a library for to house his books, etc., etc. Then you have Herodotus, who's supposed to be the father of history for the Europeans. And then you have Euripides, who's supposed to have written Greek tragedies. And you have Homer, who's supposed to have written the Iliad and Odyssey in the 9th century. Then you have Hippocrates, supposed to be Hippocrates, who's supposed to be the father of medicine and so forth and so on. 5th century also. Now, I'm going to wipe them all out by saying and asking this question. If an individual is going to challenge me or anybody is going to challenge me on whether these names existed as human beings, I ask one question. If you said that these names, such as Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Herodotus, etc., existed, then what alphabet did they use to write with? Because the Greeks had no alphabet prior to Alexander the Greek coming into Egypt in the 4th century, and all these names I just mentioned are 5th and 6th century. Supposedly Greeks, you see? So that wipes all of them out right there on one fell swoop. So when the school system under the Renaissance era in Europe began, like I mentioned earlier, which was set off and launched by an African by the name of Manuel Chrysaorus, coming from Constantinople, Turkey, into Florence, Italy, at the Curia there in 1397, and introducing the rudiments of the Greek alphabet to the few students there, because at the Curia or college there, which the word C-U-R-I-A means college, they only had male students. They didn't take females in. So they only had a few students at that. And he launched that Renaissance era by introducing the rudiments of the Greek alphabet. So from that time on, we talk about 15th century or the 1400s up until today, as I speak today, in the year 2016, the Europeans only had literacy in Europe for 619 years. So in that time frame, they have set up a lot of misinformation and fed it to the world as being something of authenticity. And I'm here to dispel all of that.
All right.
Indeed. Well, we know that a recent article came out some years ago. It's supposed to be satire, but if you really look at it, it spoke about the fact that Greek history was made up. You know, so that correlates perfectly to what you're saying.
Right. Absolutely. So that is the base foundation of, by way of facts and by way of historical research, that dispels the myth that Western academia is putting out here and has put out here in the world community among humans, us as a people, and the rest of the humans that's walking this earth. So they have brought out a whole lot of misinformation, put out a lot of misinformation in the world community. So I'm here as one individual to try to stop that. And the main thing, I want to inform our African community as to what has happened to us as a people after the Greeks came into Egypt. That's what we have to really find out. We have to know that history. What happened to our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, after the Greeks came into Egypt? And this is only a part of it right here.
Indeed.
All right.
Well, I mean, I know right now the audience is sitting back like, what?
Right. Right.
So, because this is completely opposite of what they was taught in school, whether it was elementary, junior high, high school, or college, as everything in which that was taught, whether it's from philosophy class or whether it was in social science, whether it was in history, it was all coming from a Greek perspective as if the Greeks were the bearer of history and civilization. And, of course, we know for those who study Egyptology or chematology or Afrocentricity, we know that that is a lie, from just studying our own history, So I know from just reading What They Never Told You in History class by Indo-Kemet Kush, or either Sex and Race by Jerry Rogers, the first Greeks, which actually was the Minoans or the Cretans, these was Africans, so the Minoans are Africans. And when we look at the statues and different other things in which that was there within ancient Greece, those was African people. So we know the Minoans are African people. They was followers of the fertility deity or nature men. So, this definitely correlates, Professor Williams. This is right on point.
Right, absolutely. And another thing, Brother Bay, I want to bring it out for the very first time to our African listening audience as to insert this into their thinking as to further understand what our African ancient Egyptian ancestors brought to the world. They brought and created music. I may be the first scholar in the African community to bring this information I'm about to tell you to the listening audience. Our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, created music. The reason why I'm saying that is this. I used to be a professional musician, and I know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, in music, you have the ABCs. You have do, re, mi, sol, fa, la, ti, do. You have 7 notes in music that makes up music, or the scale, the musical scale. That's the musical scale. Do, re, mi, sol, fa, la, ti, do. That consists of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Those 7 notes right there. And you take do, re, mi, sol, fa, la, ti. Do is the same note where you started from, which makes it the 8th note, or the same note but a different higher octave. So you have basic 7 notes in the foundation of music. And then you can add 7 more sounds to those 7 original notes coming from the ancient Egyptian alphabet by adding flats and sharps. Now, also in the culture of our ancestors, ancient Egyptians, they create mathematics, because in order to build anything like the pyramid and the Sphinx and buildings and so forth and so on, and tombs and so forth and so on, you have to have the knowledge of knowing math. You have to know math. So in music, you have math in music. You have the structure of the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. That is the ancient Egyptian numeral system kicks in there. You see, along with math. Because in the structure of organized music, written music, you have to, there's so many beats to a bar. A bar is measured by way of mathematics. And then our ancestors, in their culture, in ancient Egypt, they had symbols that is known today as hieroglyphs. So they use symbols. Symbols are used in organized written music. See, so those three ingredients that make up music, the alphabet, which is in music, mathematics, which is in music, the numeral system, which is in music, the symbols, which is in music, and by them creating this music or the musical scale to have organized and play organized music, they created the first instruments to play music that they created from their culture. You see, they created the harp. The harp today is nothing but a harp. It's nothing but a grand piano. If you take that harp and you turn it on its side and put legs on it, you got a piano. You see? So the harp is the mother instrument. Like today they said the piano is the mother instrument. And they also created the flute, the lute, the banjo, the string instruments, and other string instruments, the bongo, so forth and so on. They were the world's first musicians. Why? Because they created the foundation and the organization of organized music. Our ancestors did that. So for the very first time, it's being said on your show. Okay? So I just want to bring that to our African audience today about our ancestors, how great they are. Not were, but they still are great. Okay? They civilized this whole entire world of humanity. If an individual seen the movie Selma, in that movie is a scene in there where Amelia Boynton Robinson is played by a actress. Coretta Scott King is played by an actress. And these two actresses were walking down the street. The actress that was playing Amelia Boynton Robinson told the actress that was playing Coretta Scott King, said, "We come from a great people, a people who brought civilization to the world." It's very powerful. You see, a lot of people sitting up in the movie theater missed that, but it was said, okay? And the people that she was talking about, there's only one people that brought civilization to the world, and that's our ancient African Egyptian ancestors. See, they're the ones that institutionalized and brought civilization to this planet and to humanity. So that I want to them to understand by especially what I was saying about the creation of music coming from our ancient African Egyptian ancestors.
Okay. I mean, anyone who's listening should definitely do their research and study because, I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. That's everything from which that I've studied, you know, those 7 particular tones or chords or notes. I mean, they correlate perfectly with the alphabet. Anyone who has, you know, taken music, you're absolutely right, A through F. That's what it is. So once again, it sounds right and exact to me. And you said
that's what it is.
Right. And
I'm
you said
saying that based on fact and truth.
Right.
You see,
right.
So,
and you said
like
and you said this information is in your new book, on which that is coming out, on which that you and your wife wrote.
Right. I'm coming out with this new book, and in this new book, I'm have given a warning to all African scholars, teachers, intellectuals, and students: do not use the chronology of ancient Egypt. Because the chronology of ancient Egypt was created by Western academia using the Bible to do so. Our African ancient Egyptian ancestors never wrote a chronology of themselves. They left an immortal legacy in stone, in papyrus, in art, in literature, etc., etc., etc. So they never wrote a chronology. The first king of Egypt, the second dynasty, and the third dynasty, and so forth and so on. Western academia, Europeans did that in order to control the culture of our ancestors, ancient Egyptians, in their institutions, you see? And also in a book, bringing out 5 different chronologies. All 5 have different dates, okay? And the first one that I'm bringing out, showing our African readers the proof of what I'm saying, is that it was a chronology taken out of a book of 1867, a chronology. This book was written in 1867, and they under the chronology that they put in this book, they are saying that the first king of Egypt was Mesram. Well, Mesram is the son of Ham. Mesram is part of the family and table of nations in the Bible. Mesram is also called Egypt. So, and then they put Mesram, and they put in parentheses Menes, but they don't let the cat out of the bag when they say Mesram. You see, and then they started the first dynasty as 2188 BC. And then they tell you about what happened in 2188 BC, and then at the end of what they're telling you, and before they get into the next dynasty, they give you the biblical references where you can go and look up what you have just read about what they're saying about Egypt. You see, so all that's in my book. And then Henry Frankfurt put out a book in 1943-48 up in that area. Called Kingship and the Gods. And in this book, he is putting out, he's got a chronology of Mesopotamia. That's biblical. But in this chronology that he's putting out, he put the first Pharaoh as Narmer, Menes, etc., etc. And he's put the first beginning date as 3100 BC. You see, but here's the thing about it, is that in his chronology, what he's trying to prove that some Sumerians walked this earth, and that the Sumerians, using the cuneiform, introduced the alphabet to the world, the writing to the world by way of the cuneiform. You see, this is what, now they don't create, the Europeans don't create both chronologies. The chronology that is being used out here today in a very common, popular way. And then he's creating this other chronology based off of the Bible as well, and he's using it and dating and naming this chronology for Mesopotamia. You see, so therefore he's paralleling these two chronologies that they have created. See, but this other chronology coming out of Mesopotamia that they created, they're trying to knock our ancestors out of the spot for the people who brought literacy to the world. They're gonna say some kind of Sumerians that never existed. You see, so my wife is writing a in-depth chapter on the cuneiform and the Sumerians. She's been researching for 3 years to dig up all this information, and it's a lot of information that is going to be put out in this book about what is going on and what has happened in the world today by Western academia by putting out all this false information, better known as lies. So we are exposing all of that. So that's just one aspect of the book, and it's going to be, the book is pregnant with lots of different information. So we're working on it, and I cannot wait until we can finally take it to press and have it produced so it can be out into our African community and in the world.
I'm here.
Okay. All right.
Well, you dropping so much information on the audience, I'm pretty sure we're going to have some real good questions here pretty soon. But
well, I'm waiting.
I know that I don't think we have any on the line yet, but for those in which that want to call in, let me give you all the number. The number is 626-414-3535. That's 626-414-3535. If you have any questions for Professor Walter Williams, definitely give us a call. Brother L, you have anything that you want to say?
Yes, I was glad that Brother Williams had brought out the fact that about the term ancient Egypt or ancient Egyptian. I'm currently writing a book myself on the Circle 7. I'm going to take that out of my text. So I appreciate you dropping that on me, you know, so not to make that mistake.
What was that, Brother Al?
That was the ancient Egypt. Not to say ancient Egypt, because that is the Western European terminology.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Let's do this. A lot of our African scholars like to use and call Egypt Kemet.
Okay.
Okay. But see, the world know our ancestors as being the ancient Egyptians. They don't know our ancestors by being under that name of Kemet.
Right.
Okay? So all the books, textbooks, all the books written by ancient Egypt is depicting ancient Egypt under that name by calling it ancient Egypt. Now, they saying the African scholars are saying that the word Kemet is a Greek name. Well, I said this, that the ancient Egyptians coined that name for themselves. When they ask, "Who are you?" I'm a Egyptus. I'm an Egyptos, etc. While speaking Greek. Now, they were speaking Greek. Now, you remember they forced the Greek language on our ancestors, and our ancestors learned that language. So while speaking Greek, under the domination of the Greeks, they coined for themselves the name Egyptus or Egyptos. Okay? Like Jesse Jackson, while speaking English, told Western media to call us Africans living in the United States of America African Americans. He said that while speaking English. So it wasn't no European that coined the name African Americans for us. It was Jesse Jackson speaking English who coined that name, or one of the ones that helped coin that name. But he brought it to the news media so they can use it in their reporting of the news about us, you see? So
right.
We don't want to diminish anything because the world knows our ancestors as being the ancient Egyptian, you see? So you can call it Kemet if you want to, but I don't use that word. And then they say that the word Kemet means the land of the black or black land. That's okay, fine. Now you have the whole continent of Africa under the European name Africa. So if you want to change that name from Africa, you can call the whole continent of Africa Kemet, because Africa is the home of the blacks or the black land. You can use that form. That's just another idea that I can put out there in the arena into the minds of our African thinkers. You see, so
okay.
Let's not argue over Kemet, okay? Being a European name given to our ancestors, ancient Egyptians. That name was given to themselves, coined themselves by speaking Greek while doing it. You see, so that is the equation for that.
Okay.
So I always stick with ancient Egypt. And then you're saying that you're writing a book. I'm assuming that you are Noble Drew Ali scholar.
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay, because he put out his Quran or his literature with that 7 in there. It was very dominant because it was on the front cover.
Right.
That's what made me ask you, were you studying under the Noble Drew Ali scholarship?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. It's great.
Yes.
I just want to throw that out there to you about Kemet, so you can maybe kind of rethink that and get back to ancient Egypt, because the world know our people as being the ancient Egyptians, and everything is geared toward that. All the museums around the world got ancient Egyptian artifacts, you see. So, so that's the reason why I focus on the use of the name ancient Egypt. It's more powerful anyway.
Okay. Well said.
Okay, well, Professor Walter Williams, I guess we can get into religion, that particular aspect. I know we was talking about 332 BC with Alexander coming in and allegedly putting together the Alexandria Library, in which that allegedly was burned down. 700,000 documents and, was destroyed or burnt. I mean, what is your assessment on that and the formation of what we now refer to as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam?
You mean, what do I refer to as what now? What the area are you talking about?
Just in reference to the organization, because from what I've read, it was individuals under Alexander in which that allegedly formulated the library so that, various scholars from around the world could come and do research, and which that 72, I guess you would say, bishops or, I want to say bishop, rabbis or Jews or whatever you want to refer to them as, I won't say bishop, came together in order to put together what became the Old Testament, and then later on, Arius Pisos came with his New Testament version. So, I mean, do you have any information on that or anything in which that correlates to it?
Yeah, so first place, there was no 72 or 70 Jews being in ancient Egypt. That's a story that's being put out there under the rule of ancient Egypt, under Ptolemy II Philadelphus, the son of Ptolemy I Lagi, called Soter. In that story, they're saying that Jews were living in Egypt under Ptolemy II Philadelphus, and that they were Hellenized. That means that they had lost their knowledge of their language, supposed to be Hebrew. And this is how the story goes now. This has never happened. And that while in Egypt, under the Greek rule, or the Ptolemaic rule, they couldn't read or write Hebrew. So therefore, they were Hellenized. That means that they were transferred on into thinking Greek, or Greek taught, which is another misnomer. But now, they said that this Ptolemy to Philadelphia sent to Jerusalem for 70 scholars, 72 scholars. And when they got to Egypt, these 72 scholars was given a copy of the Bible in Hebrew, and that these scholars, 72 of these rabbis or scholars, went into 72 different rooms and to translate this Bible into Greek, which is they call the Greek Septuagint. And that when they came out of the room and they put their Bibles on the table, that the translation from Hebrew to Greek was perfect. And that allowed the Jews in Egypt to be able to read and write. That's a lie. That never happened. There's no such thing as a Jew in human form. But that goes into another subject. The only place that you find Jews, Canaanites, and Israelites is in between the pages of the Bible in a narrative story, fed to a believer. The Bible is a book that one has to believe in. If you believe in the stories in the Bible, then you have created whatever these stories are telling you. If they're talking about Jews, or Canaanites, or Israelites, then if you believe that story, which is talking about the Canaanites and the Jews and the Israelites, then you have created this Canaanite, Jew, and Israelite in your thinking, in your belief. You did that. But it's just, you're taking it from a narrative story. So get back to the Greek Septuagint. That never happened, LXX. If an individual gets literature called the pseudepigrapha of Orestes, that'll tell you exactly what I'm saying. Now, getting into Piso. There's never been a Piso. It's another misnomer. Piso, they're saying in the saga of Piso that he was supposed to be the father of Jesus the Christ. There's never been a Jesus the Christ. So you're getting back any type of religion that's out here in the world today is based off of mythology. The characters that's in the stories that's connected with these religions never walked the earth as human beings because it's a religion. It's stories, okay? And in order to keep and practice a religion, an individual human has to believe in these various religions, such as Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Black Hebrew Israelitism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism. All those are man-made religions that one has to believe in. The glue that keeps all religions together is one's belief and faith in these various religions. But now you go back to your own personal humanity as a human being coming out of your mother's womb. Any human being coming out, or all human beings coming out of their mother's womb, they, after 9 months of incubation, were coming out, were attached to her umbilical cord. The umbilical cord was cut. The umbilical cord for 9 months served as a lifeline for your development as a human being. That umbilical cord fed you food, air, and water, and other nourishments in order for you to develop into a human being at the end of 9 months of incubation. Now, when you came out, the doctor cut that umbilical cord to separate you from your mother, okay? But what still was going on throughout your body was life was still surging throughout your body like it is at this very moment that I'm talking to you. Now, you were given life coming out of your mother's womb. That is your individual, divine, human birthright. But you were never, ever given a religion. Man gave you the religion. Man gave humanity a religion to control man. You see? So therefore, all religions are made up off of mythology, allegories, and metaphors, and so forth and so on. In other words, lies. That's what all religions are made of in order to control man and diminish your thinking. Because when you practice a religion, you incarcerate your thinking. Your mind is incarcerated, just like an individual who gets arrested and go to prison. He's put into a jail cell that has limited space. He does everything in that given space in the jail. He's incarcerated in this jail, in this space. So when you believe in a religion and practice a religion, you incarcerate your thinking. In other words, you limit your thinking. You see? Yeah. Therefore, you put your own self in bondage. You see? Yeah. So we're going to have to clear up anything that's pertaining to religion, cut it loose. Find your way back to understanding who your personal humanity is. That's the first thing a human needs to learn is who am I as a human being? What do I possess as a human being? How can I use what I possess as a human being to benefit me, my family, and all of humanity? You see, you have to know about your pineal gland, what the function of your pineal gland. You got to understand that the bottom of your pineal gland are your nostrils, and you got to understand that pineal gland is a conduit that sits in the middle of your brain that serves as a receiver and a sender between you, your personal humanity, and your personal universe. Your personal universe is your mind. What do? You live in your mind. You live in your mind 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. As long as you live, you're going to live in your own personal universe, which is your mind. In other words, if I cut over your head, Brother Bay and Brother L. Bay, I will see your brains, but I cannot see your mind. Your mind is invisible spirit. There are 7 billion human beings walking this earth as I speak today. Over 700 billion human beings as I speak at this very moment, walking this earth. We are all kept together by one thing, and that's air, A-I-R. We all are kept together by air. But every individual that's walking this earth, they live in their own personal universe. You see? Now, you have the female and you have the male. Singularly, the male or the female cannot create anything with life in it. Only if the female and the male have a sexual intercourse, then from that sexual intercourse they can produce pro-life. But by themselves, they can create, because everything that you see around you was created or came from the minds of a female or a male. Now, I'm in my second bedroom. I see a television in here. I see paintings on the wall. I see the bed. I see dressers. I see nightstands. I see lamps, mirrors, and pictures, and so forth and so on. Now, everything, and rugs on the floor, everything I see in here is dead because it has no life in it. See, I'm the only thing in this room that's got life in it. But I was created from the sexual intercourse of my mother and my father. You see? So you really have to understand that, to separate and understand who you are as a human being, so you can separate yourself from these religions and understand about religions, how that man created these religions to control man, and how that one has to believe in these religions in order to keep these religions alive. So therefore, when you believe in the religion, you're giving your power, your personal human power, to sustain and make these religions alive. You are doing that, you see? But at the same time, these religions are kept together by your belief, so therefore you are incarcerating your thinking. This is what you're doing. And the Christianity is very, very detrimental to us as a people. Very detrimental. Why? Because the icon, the image, and the symbol of white supremacy is institutionalized in all Christian churches throughout America and throughout the world. That's where white supremacy is institutionalized. So every time us Africans go into a church, you're bowing down to a white image on the cross, a dead white man on that cross. You're worshiping that white man as your God. You're telling the white race that I love you, white people. You are my God and Savior. Okay? Now, let's go back and ask this question to Christians. Do you think, Christians, that the white race will take their family and their children into a church that has a big black African Jesus hanging on the cross, and that they will teach their children and their family that this black Jesus hanging on the cross is their God and Savior? The answer is hell no. They will not do that under no circumstances. So I ask African Christians, why are you going in these churches worshiping this dead white image on the cross? You have two choices. You have the Ankh, which is a symbol of life, and you have the cross, which is a symbol of death. Now, which one do you want? The third thing I ask these African Christians is that you have two choices, just like the white doll and the black doll syndrome. You ask the African child in the United States of America, which doll do you prefer, this white doll or this black doll? And most likely they're going to pick out the white doll, okay? So today I'm asking Christians, what is the name of your African God that looks like you? What is the name of it that looks like you? And when I ask that question, their mouth drops open and they have a puzzled look on their face. On my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, on the front cover, there's a picture of Osiris, the African, that looks like us. And then below that, you have this Jesus Christ, that created creature called Jesus the Christ. Now, so I ask Christians when I lecture, which of these gods do you want for yourself? Which one would you want? You want this white doll or this white God, or do you want this African God that looks like us. You see? So that's the question. So you also have to realize this, that when we as African people go into these churches, you're supporting white supremacy, you're supporting white superiority, and you're supporting African and black inferiority. That's what you're doing. So you really have to know what you are doing and how damaging this is, because it is a disease and virus that you pass down from generation to generation to generation to generation to generation. And Christianity, especially, is very damaging to us as a people, because it has destroyed many, 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 many generations of us Africans living in this country. So another thing I want to bring out, Brother Bay and Brother L. Bay, is this. When an individual, us Africans, out of the African community, go into these churches, it's just like going back to the slave plantation. Why do I say that? Because the slave plantation, the head of the slave plantation is this old white man called Martha. The head of all Christian church is this dead white man on the cross they call Jesus the Christ. The slave plantation have an overseer called Old Boss Charlie, another old white man. The overseer in the churches is the minister, Reverend C.T. Chickenwing. He oversees the slaves sitting in the pews of these churches, and that's where the parishioners come in. They're sitting in these pews of these churches. They are the slaves. So I attribute the plantation, the slave plantation, and the church the same. So I can hope you see what I'm saying, the correlation there. So I turn it back over to you guys.
Okay, that's very well said. What you're talking about, the Osiris and the European Jesus, or so-called white Jesus. It would probably behoove them to choose the Osiris God. Although neither one of them existed.
Repeat that again, Brother L.B.
I say Osiris.
Yes.
Okay, so you said Osiris existed?
Osiris is part of the African ancient Egyptian divine triad of Osiris, which is God and Father, and Isis, which is the goddess mother, and Haru, which is the son, the S-U-N, of Osiris and Isis. Yes. That was
okay.
One of the main deities over in ancient Egypt.
Okay.
Those are our gods.
Okay.
And goddess. Okay? And the Melkite Coptic Egyptians, they're the ones that created a god for the European. Okay? Because we had our gods, but they gave our gods and goddesses away. And in my book, Historical Origin of Christianity, I write and tell you how that was done in the ecumenical council meetings that took place in Turkey. All ecumenical council meetings took place in Turkey, Northeast Africa. And I'll tell you how that was done. You see.
Yes, brother?
Brother Bay?
Yes. I'm still here. This is Brother L. I'm still here.
Oh, Brother L? Okay. Brother L?
I'm still here. Yes. What was the question again?
No, I was talking about piggybacking on what you were saying. I have no questions for you.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I was talking, like I said, I understand what you're saying. Yes, a lot of us had what you were saying about Christianity, all the religions really, in general. They are mind control institutions or systems.
They're what now?
all religions are mind control institutions or
Correct.
systems.
Correct.
Used to enslave the masses of the people.
Correct. Absolutely.
For their own, whoever was the head of these religions, that they're used to enslave the masses for their own agenda.
Correct.
And,
absolutely.
And they have done a masterful job. You watch, especially during the so-called Easter and Christmas holidays, you watch television and you see how many millions and millions of people gather for these events.
Correct.
Although they are celebrating something, but they're not celebrating what they think they are celebrating. The Easter dealing with the spring equinox, and the Christmas holiday dealing with the winter solstice.
Correct.
This is what they're actually celebrating. But if you could tell them that, they will look at you like you have lost your mind or just went out to lunch.
Correct.
So I know I've got to have that experience. I know you had that experience as well.
Correct.
Trying to tell people, no, that's not what you're celebrating.
Correct.
You're celebrating the son's the return after 3 days of his of his stagnation. Now on the 25th, it 1 degree. It moves 1 degree. Actually, the Earth is moving 1 degree southward. Actually, to make the sun appears to be moving 1 degree north.
Okay.
But actually, the degree is 1 degree, so that means the sun has been born again.
Okay.
And that's what they're actually celebrating. Like they said, joy to the world, our Lord has come, let earth receive its king. His king is talking about the sun.
Okay.
But they will argue you down tooth and nail. No, we're talking about Jesus Christ. Our Lord and our Savior. And it's almost to the brink, if not to the brink, or if not, insanity.
Correct. Well, let me throw this in, Brother L, is this. It goes back to, and this is what the masses of people all over the world, of all races, creeds, and color, who are Christians, don't realize this, because Western academia has put this lie out, starting with coming from the Vatican. Okay, when Christianity, the seat of Christianity, moved out of Northeast Africa, out of Constantinople, of the world's first Christian church ever built on earth, known as the Hagia Sophia, commissioned to be built by Justinian and his wife in 532, finished in 537 by African builders and African designers of that church. On the front cover of my book, The Historical Origin of Islam, I'll show you a picture of the Church of Hagia Sophia and its minarets outside, but that goes into another history. But getting back to this world's first Christian church, it was finished being built in 537, December the 27th, 537, okay? And that church was built for Mary and Christ, the Hagia Sophia, the Church of the Holy Wisdom, which is another name for this Jesus the Christ, okay? It wasn't Jesus' name, it was just Christ, Mary and Christ. So when the seat of Christianity, after 900 and some odd years later, moved out of Northeast Africa into on the outskirts of Rome, Italy, over the catacombs, using the Gregorian calendar, they lost 2 days. So for over 900 years, they celebrated the birth of that church, or the finishing building of that church, on December the 27th. That was done in Northeast Africa, when the seat was in Constantinople, Turkey. When it moved out of Northeast Africa, out of Constantinople, out of the Hagia Sophia into Rome when John VIII went to the Curia there in Florence, Italy in 1439 and relinquished what is known in history as the donation of Constantine to make way for the seat to be moved into into Europe, on the outskirts of Rome, over the catacombs. So Eugenius IV and Nicholas V had dead bodies dug up to make way for the building of the Vatican and the building of St. Peter's Church that was in 1445, known today as St. Peter's Basilica. And by using the Gregorian calendar, they lost 2 days and celebrating the Mary and Christ, which is Mary. They say Mary and Christ, Mary Christ Mass, or the Mass celebration for Christ on the original date of December the 27th. By losing 2 days using the Gregorian calendar, they celebrate that on December the 25th. And that's how that came about, historically.
Okay. That was also doing was that part of the Nicene Council?
No, the Nicene Council number 1 was 325. That had nothing to do. This was many years after that, over 1,000 years after that.
Okay. Yeah, that would be. You're right. That would be.
Yeah,
you're right.
Because Christ was created at the Council of Ephesus in 431.
Yeah, right. That would be. That'd be a little over 100 years later. Yes. That would be a little bit over 100 years later.
Oh, 1,000 years or more.
1,000 years a little later. Yeah, a little over 1,000 years. That's right. Because you're dealing with the next century.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about the first 3 popes being Africans?
Well, starting when? What date?
I was saying that Augustine. Who was that? I'm not sure who it was. I can't place the dates, but I was reading. I think it was one of the book. I don't know if it was your book or was it what they never told you in history class about the first 3 popes supposed to be African.
Not in my book. Now, Augustine was an African. Augustine lived over there in that area. Today, as I speak, the Roman Catholic Church uses the teachings of Augustine as being the foundation of the Roman Catholic Church. So there was a Augustine that walked this earth, but he was a Coptic Melkite Egyptian.
Okay. That's what I was, right.
Yeah. So let's go back historically and get where the African popes come in, not Augustine.
Okay.
Now, let's go back to the council of the ecumenical council called the Council of Nicene, or the Nicaea I council meeting, which took place in 325 in the Common Era. Okay? That council meeting was called of 3 things, historical things that happened. And I mentioned those 3 historical things in my books, Historical Origin of Christianity. Those 3 things was 1, the Donatist schismatic controversy. 2, the donation of Constantine. 3, the strong statement by Arius. Those 3 incidents caused the Council of Nicaea I to come about in 325, and all council meetings took place in northeast Africa in the country that's known as Turkey. Okay? Now, what is the Donatist schismatic controversy? The Donatist schismatic controversy is a 4th century North African schism that broke out in the secular community in Egypt and in North Africa. Okay? when a prominent member of that community turned over certain sacred documents to the Roman occupying forces there in northeast Africa, okay, against the wishes of Bishop Donatus and the Metropolitan Bishop Secundus. They told him, don't do this. Do not turn those sacred writings over to this Roman ruler, which was a co-ruler at that time, Diocletian. He says, model yourself like our ancestors and predecessors did before this date and incident of turning over the sacred writings. But he turned them over anyway, and that is called the Donatist Schismatic Controversy. The second thing that brought about the Ecumenical Council of Nicaea 1-325 was the donation of Constantine. Constantine was the Roman ruling occupier of Egypt, Syria, and Turkey. And for 645 years, from the creation of the image that we know today as Jesus the Christ was created in 320 B.C., from the image of Ptolemy I Lagi, given the attributes of Osiris and Apis the bull representative of Ra, with the composite name of Serapis, old Serapis, using the composite name of Osiris and Apis the bull, representative of Ra, given to Ptolemy I Lagi, called Soter. The word S-O-T-E-R means Savior. But I'm going to tell you that, start you there, and then bring you, because they tried to get the secular community to accept this Ptolemy under the name of Serapis as a god, and respect it and put into their temples alongside of the god Osiris. The secular community, ancient Egyptian, Coptic Egyptian, our ancestors refused to do that. But the male Coptic Egyptian, who ran the government of ancient Egypt, who I call the Uncle Toms of antiquity, they went ahead and took and created a god for this Ptolemy. After this Ptolemy found a temple in Memphis, Egypt, to do that. Those priests and priestesses took two of their deities, like I mentioned, Osiris and Apis the bull, representative of Ra, and made a composite of the two names of Old Serapis and gave this name, Old Serapis or Serapis, to this Ptolemy ruler. Because under the Ptolemy dynasty, Ptolemy I Lagi was the successor after Alexander died in 323. They came in 332. He died 9 years later in 323 B.C. B.C. dates you count down. Today's dates that we live in, you count up. So anyway, they tried to get, these Melkites tried to get, and this Ptolemy tried to get our ancestors in the Coptic Egyptian community to accept his image as a god alongside of Osiris. And they refused to do that. See? So you had 14 succeeding Ptolemies, starting with Ptolemy Lagi, the first Ptolemy, and then you had 13 after him. They made it what is known as the Ptolemaic dynasty of ancient Egypt, until that lasted for 302 years. And after 302 years, here come the Romans in there. And they controlled and took over from the Greeks after the Greeks stayed in power for 302 years. So they came in 30 B.C. in the Common Era. And they took over. And this is where we're coming up to the Council of Nicaea I. And I told you the three things that brought about the Council of Nicaea 1325. I'll tell you about the Donatist Systematic Controversy, and I'm about to tell you about the second thing that caused the Ecumenical Council of Nicaea 1 to come about in 325. Is the donation of Constantine. Constantine was the ruling emperor at that time of Egypt, Syria, and Turkey, and by him seeing this split in our African community, just like we had a split here in Chicago during the time of Harold Washington. When Harold, the political community of African community in Chicago was very strong and tight, knitted together, that we put Harold Washington on the 5th floor and made him the mayor of the city of Chicago in 1983. When he died in 1987, the white power structure split our community by putting in a brother by the name of Eugene Sawyer, who our community did not want because he was handpicked by the white established politicians. We wanted Tim Evans, so that was a split there. So with that split, Richard M. Daley came up in between that split and became the mayor of the city of Chicago. The same thing that happened with the Donatist Schismatic Controversy. So with the Donatist Schismatic Controversy had gone on, Constantine saw that split and weakness in our community. So he went into our community and he found a brother by the name of Sylvester I and offered him what is known in history as the donation of Constantine. It goes like this. He walked up to this Coptic Egyptian African brother, Sylvester I, and said, Sylvester, I'll give you my imperial emblems of authority over your people if you will get your people to accept Serapis as a god in their community. And all I want you to do, I will give you my imperial power on a temporal basis, on a temporary basis, if you can do this. And also, along with what is known as the donation of Constantine, I want you to baptize me in your African community, so I'll be just a part of the community. You will have all of my power over that community. I won't have any power at all because I'll be a part of the community. You see?
All right.
And so Sylvester accepted that offer. That is known in history as a donation of Constantine. Now, the third historical incident that brought about the Council of Nicaea I to come about in 325 was a strong statement by Arius. Arius was a member of the secular Coptic Egyptian community. He said that Serapis, which is known today as Jesus the Christ, was a created creature, dissimilar from the Father. Now, who is the Father? The Father being Osiris, a perfect creature, but a creature nevertheless. See? So, at that same council meeting of Nicaea I, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians took Horus, or Haru, which is the son of Osiris and Isis, out of that ancient Egyptian African divine triad. They took him out, and they put this white image in its place. They took the S-U-N out and put the S-O-N in its place. It becomes the son of Osiris and the son of Isis. You see? So now, the two African deities, Osiris, which is God and Father, Isis, which is Goddess Mother, Africans, now have a white son. Arius said that this Serapis was a created creature, dissimilar, meaning not like Osiris, but a perfect creature, but a creature nevertheless. And those three things, the Donatist Schismatic Controversy, the strong statement by Arius, and the donation of Constantine brought about in history the Ecumenical Council of 325. So Constantine did not call that council meeting because he had no authority to do that, because he gave his imperial authority over to Sylvester I. Sylvester called that council meeting.
Oh, okay.
You see? And at that council meeting, by them, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians are taking this Serapis, which is the son, and you heard that Jesus the Christ is the Son of Man. That's true. Man can only make creatures by himself. He can only bring pro-life if he's have a sexual encounter with a female. That's what it didn't have. They created this Serapis. So therefore, he was a created creature. Okay? And dissimilar from the Father. So these Melkites said, now, this created creature of this white Serapis is now the son of Osiris. And they said that, God the Father, which is Osiris, God the Son, which is Serapis, today known as Jesus the Christ, the same. That is called the Homogeneous Creed. They created that right there at the the Ecumenical Council of Nicaea I in 325. The Nicene Creed. God the Father, God the Son, the same. 56 years later, they had another council meeting called the Council of Constantinople I, 381, where the Roman rulers wanted to take the Homogeneous Creed that was created at the Council of Nicaea I, 56 years earlier, to become the creed of the Roman government. The Coptic Egyptian members of the secular community refused to accept that.
Okay.
So that's the reason why that second ecumenical council was called, to try to get the secular community to accept what is known as the Homogeneous Creed. God the Father, God the Son, the same. In other words, Osiris and Serapis being the same. They refused to do that. Then, 50 years after that, you come up to the Ecumenical Council of Ephesus in 431, and this is where the drama come in. Okay. At the Council of Ephesus, the Monophysites under Eutyches said that Serapis had an Osiris-like spirit, but no human nature. In order to have a human nature, an individual has to be born through the body of a female. Has to be born through that. So what they did, they went back into the African ancient Egyptian divine triad, and they took Isis out of there. And they created a created creature called the Virgin Mary. In order for this Serapis to have a human nature, in order for anybody to have a human nature, one has to be born through the body of a female. You can't deny that.
Right.
So they created this created creature called the Virgin Mary, giving this created creature, the Virgin Mary, the title of Theotokos. The word Theotokos means the mother of God. Nestorius, who was also a Melkite, who was also a Monophysite, said that he could not accept the Theotokos in this created creature, the Virgin Mary. So therefore, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians took these two created creatures, the Virgin Mary and the created creature Serapis, and they amalgamated the two together. And while speaking Greek, these Melkite Coptic Egyptians said, after the amalgamation was done between these two created creatures, Mary and Serapis, they said, now this is the Christos. And in English, they were speaking Greek. And in English, the Christos means now this is the Christ. So this is how this Christ was created, right there in Ephesus, in Turkey, in 431, by those Melkite Coptic Egyptians. So he was Christ then. Serapis no more, but Christ. and from then on, the rest of the history, I can tell it, but it takes some time to tell it. But anyway, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, that would, yeah. Yeah, and it's been going on ever since after that.
Correct, absolutely. To this very moment that I'm talking and that we're talking.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct on that. Yes, so they, that's what's going on. Like you said, even as we speak. Like I said, all these institutions, like the church, the institution of the church, and actually it is a, like I said and I say it again, it is a mind control system or institution.
Correct.
It is built on falsehood, all built
Correct.
on falsehood, and that these people hold so dear to, you know, and sometimes will go to war with you over and kill you over it.
This is true.
Over
See,
a
here,
lie.
that's correct. It's nothing but a lie. But here, Brother L. Bay, is this. Is that our people in the African community don't realize that the institution that you and I are talking about was created by the European. This is his institution. This is based off of these lies. Now, the European has created an institution using the foundation that he created based off of lies, deceit, murder, injustice, corruption, greed, terrorism, militarism, sexism, racism, slavery, exploitation, violence, plunder, rape, hate, religion, mythology, and perverted scholarship. That's his foundation for the European. That's his institution. So you really have to understand those 19 things I just mentioned. And if you have any more, you can add to the 19 and as many as you can. That's his institution.
Right.
That's the foundation of his institution that he has built in the world today.
If it's founded on that, then it's not founded on any culture.
No.
That's not a culture. Rape, hate.
We have no culture because there's never been a culture, European culture, that came out of Europe. None whatsoever. He did not develop in Europe to have a culture. He developed in Africa. The Africans did not go to Europe to develop, it's just the reverse. They were in Africa developing. You see? So you're absolutely right.
That's something. So Dr. Aline, you had any questions? I don't know what Dr. Aline went to. Okay. I guess we'll go on then till we get back.
Okay. I'm here.
Yeah, so like I said, that's hard.
Maybe back now.
Well, there is a question that's in the chat room. They was asking, what about cuneiform from the Sumerian or Mesopotamian text? Is that older than the Egyptian Metu Neter?
No, I'm trying to. The book that my wife and I are writing will dispel all of that. It's nothing but myths. You're dealing with myths. Anything in the Bible, Brother Salim, is nothing but mythology. That's all it is. And Mesopotamia is in the Bible, okay? And the cuneiform supposed to have come out of Iran from the Behistun mountain, so forth. Go ahead, what you say?
No, everybody was listening.
What were you saying, Brother?
No,
Elaine?
everybody was listening. Oh,
okay.
Nobody said anything. Everybody was listening.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, that's not true, because what they're trying to do with that if you fall for that, don't fall for it, because it is a lie put out here by Western academia to discredit and take the credit away from our ancestors being the first illiterate people on planet Earth. What made them literate was they created the world's first alphabet and writing system. They're going to say that out of Mesopotamia, using the cuneiform, a non-humans by the name of Sumerians produced and the world's first writing system. That's not true. Don't fall for that. And the book that my wife and I producing will dispel all of that. The name of the book that we're writing is called Dispelling Myths of Ancient Egypt. That's what it is. So we're going to dispel all of that. See, like I told you earlier about the chronology. The Europeans created this chronology that's out there now. The first dynasty, second, third, fourth dynasty, etc., etc. They created that. And then they created a parallel chronology based on Mesopotamia to parallel that. Now they're in control of both chronologies. They can say whatever they want to say about whatever they want to say. You see? Now, Mesopotamia, where do you find Mesopotamia? You find it in the Bible. The Bible says that Mesopotamia is in Iraq today. Iraq was a part of Arabia. One has to realize that. After World War I was over with, World War I was 1914 to 1918. After World War I, the League of Nations in 1920, the League of Nations is known today as the UN today. The League of Nations in 1920 gave the British government the mandate over Northeast Africa. And the British government named that area the Middle East to make that area that they call the Middle East today the land of the Bible. Okay? Now, in 1920, the League of Nations gave the British government under this a mandate over Northeast Africa, except for the country called Syria. In 1922, they gave France Syria, and France boarded off Syria and made Lebanon out of it, and Beirut that you have over there today. Under the mandate that the League of Nations gave the British government in 1920, the British government went into Arabia and boarded off Arabia and made Iraq out of it. And they boarded off Iraq and made Kuwait out of that to break up all that oil reserve over there. Excuse me. They didn't want all that oil reserve to remain under one ruler. You see? And they took, and in 1929, they took a region that is known as Jordan, and they built what is known as the country Jordan, began to be built in 1929 by the British. They call that Transjordan. And they gave Hussein ibn Ali his son, Abdullah, and made him the first king of Jordan in 1929. As you go to Jordan today, you find that country is very modern. That's the reason why, because it was first began to build in 1929. And they gave the second son of Hussein ibn Ali Iraq, Faisal, in 1920, made him king of Iraq, you see? And your audience, listening audience, should know of T.E. Lawrence, or Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes, we know about him.
Hussein ibn Ali helped the British topple the Ottoman government because T.E. Lawrence was a British agent.
Yes, he was.
Operating out of Egypt. And Hussein ibn Ali, of the head of the Hussein family, helped T.E. Lawrence and the British to topple the Ottoman Empire and government. So as a reward, the British rewarded Hussein ibn Ali, his two sons, like I mentioned, Abdullah, become king of Jordan, and Faisal to become king of Iraq. Okay? And Hussein wanted to be king of Arabia, but the British says no. I can't have all these oil reserves under one family rule. So they appointed Abdul Aziz al-Saud as the king of Arabia in 1924. You see? And this was in 1924. So that was 4 years before the Arab world accepted the Quran that is out here today for Islam. The Arab world accepted in 1919 the Quran, the Holy Quran that is used today in Islam today. Islam, as a religion, is based off of a book called the Quran. That Quran was accepted by the Arab world after the Jews, 49 years later, in Syria, who created what is known as this Quran that was being used today. They started in 1870 in Syria. 49 years later, the Arab world accepted that Quran. That was a year after the fall and the topple of the Ottoman government by the British government. See? So, and the British in 1924 appointed Abdul Aziz al-Saud as being the first king of Arabia. And then the first meeting in Islam's history was 1926. That's in my book, The Historical Origin of Islam. And I put all the minutes of that meeting in my book, The Historical Origin of Islam. So that's just a little history that we should know in the African community to dispel a lot of misinformation that's been put out here over the years and over the centuries.
Excellent. So, of course, in your book, Historical Origin of Islam, you state that there was no man by the name of Prophet Muhammad that ever existed or walked the face of the earth. That is a blow to those in which that we're talking about over 1 billion people in which that they actually believe that. Give us a little bit more history on that.
Well, see, like I said before, all religions have a belief system. Okay, so you got Christians believing that there was a dead white man on the cross. They called Jesus Christ lived as a human being. That's a belief. See, but when you go into history, you're looking for facts and the truth. And I have a $5,000 award to give to anybody of any race, creed, or color, including the Pope, that can use the discipline of history like I did to say that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of Jesus the Christ that ever walked this earth as a human being. I give you $5,000 as a reward to give to anybody that can prove that a Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition walked this earth as a human being. But you have to use the discipline of history, not what you believe and what you think, and use your emotions to make your belief and your faith in these various religions to be true. So if you can use the discipline of history, you can get this $5,000, but you have to write it up now. How, when, and where a Prophet Muhammad walks this earth. How, when, and where Jesus Christ walks this earth. How, when, where's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Sarah, Gideon, Esau, David, and Solomon, Joshua, any biblical characters walk this earth as human beings. You get $5,000. If you can't do it, then if you can find somebody, you get a $2,000 finder's fee to do that. You see? So now, my $5,000 has been on the table for over 20 years, and it's still there. Nobody can take it, because you cannot take what you believe and write it up on paper to be facts. Facts are stronger than argument, more profound than reasoning, more dependable than opinions. Silences disputes, supersedes predictions, and facts always ends the argument unless you're talking to an individual who does not recognize and want to accept facts. See? So you have to know the difference between today's Islam and Mohammedanism. There's two different histories there. You see? So this is what you have to know. So that would be my answer to you, Brother Bay.
Right. Well, there's an author out now who's a European who said that Muhammad never existed. Matter of fact, that's the name of the book. So obviously you've been studying your works.
Well, I don't know.
Right, because that book just came out 3 years ago.
What's the name of it?
2012. It's called Muhammad Never Existed.
Who's it written by?
I can't remember his name right now because I don't have the book in front of me because I'm in New York, so I'm not at home. But I have the book on my shelf at the house. But hold on, I can probably pull it up on the computer right quick, and I can tell you more information behind it. Okay, I'm pulling up now. Let me see. All right, the name of it is called Did Muhammad Exist? That was the name of it. And it was written by Robert Spencer.
Okay. I'm going to get that book. And also I'm going to tell you this, Brother Aleem and Brother El, is this. About 8 years ago, in the Wall Street Journal, in Munster, Germany, at the University of Munster, Germany, they built a special center. They call it the Islamic Center. And they hired a Muslim by the name of Mohammed VII Galish, who teaches classes there. And the article goes on to say that Mohammed VII Galish told the university officials there that in his further research on Islam, he found out that there was no Muhammad. And he upset them, caused a stir. So he was supposed to be writing a book. Well, I haven't found anything on his book or anything like that. But it was in the Wall Street Journal about 7 or 8 years ago. His name was Mohammed VII Galish. He said that after further studying Islam, he is convinced that there was no Prophet Muhammad. Like I said before, all religions are based off one's belief. You see? Before you start believing yourself, you better investigate and stop taking what these Europeans are saying, because if the Europeans, got to realize this. The Europeans did not treat us right. You know they're not going to teach us right. See? And like I said before, their institutions is based off of lies, deceit, murder, injustice, corruption, greed, terrorism, militarism, sexism, racism, slavery, exploitation, violence, plunder, rape, hate, religion, mythology, and perverted scholarship. That's their foundation. That's their institution. So out of everything I just said, those 19 words that I said that makes up the foundation of the European, you think any truth is going to come out of that? No. They are out here teaching and misleading the general populace of the world. Why? To support and keep white supremacy in force. As long as you go into these churches and worship that dead white man on the cross, you're worshiping the white man, and you're keeping this white supremacy institution alive, because you are giving away all of your spiritual power. So therefore, we are a powerless people because of that. And these misguided ministers are leading us into these churches and keep insisting and enforcing this white supremacy. And we keep practicing this white supremacy out of ignorance. See, it has to stop. Well, this is what your show is all about, and this is what I'm all about, and what you two brothers are all about. So, Brother L, you have anything else?
Brother L?
Well, yes, right on time with that. That's what we all hear about, to wake up the morally, spiritually, and mentally dead. It's been a hard task, very hard task, but we got to keep hitting them.
That's correct.
Not going to hit all of them, because a lot of them, sad to say, a lot of them will die and go to their graves and still believe in their belief systems.
That's right. We got to get to the young people.
Yes.
That's right. We have about 10 minutes left. Let me see if we have any callers online. If y'all have any questions, give us a call at 626-414-3535. That's 626-414-3535.
Yes, like I said, most of them will die and go to their graves, believing in these falsehoods and lies.
That's correct. We have to have scholars out here to break all this stuff down to them, whether they like it or not. See, so we've got to expose certain people and certain things in order to get this straight in our community and get it right. So you're absolutely right.
Yes.
All right, we have caller. Oh, excuse me, Brother L.
Okay.
We have caller area code 410, area code 410. You fine.
What's going on, brothers? How's everybody doing this long?
All right, peace, brother. We're doing well. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Got legendary Walter Williams on Dr. Walter Williams on the line, man. Brother, I was speechless, man. Because let me just say this. Actually, honestly, the reason I found out years ago about Dr. Alim's show, I didn't even know he had a radio show, but I remember crystal clear. I was actually trying to find, I was deeply searching for more interviews or anything about Dr. Walter Williams, because you man, you're a cold brother, man. You go in. You go in on it.
I have to.
Hey,
I remember, brother, when you called, you were like, I need Walter Williams' number. I was like, brother, he gave his number on the video. You were like, I can't find it. So I'm glad you connected. I was thinking about you heavy. I was like, I hope this brother called in tonight.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to leave the listening audience my email. And if you email me, put your phone number there, and I'll call you back, and we can take it from that point. My email address is ancientegyptian@msn.com. Again, ancient, ANCIENT, Egyptian, EGYPTIAN, @msn.com. Email me, put your phone number on there, and I'll call you back, and we can take it from there.
Okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, my excuse me, my main questions. I got the the historical origins of Islam. I was reading that heavy when I was in some tough places, and that was kind of getting me through with some studying. And I'm a little rusty on it now, but what amazed me is I mean, you still got it. After all these years, you gotta have it. But it's one thing to speak from emotionality and sentiment, but you're dangerous when you start putting dates up there and factual data. You start putting things like how you really can't find Mecca back in antiquity.
That's true.
And stuff like the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, a bunch of silly words, but stuff like that I learned from your books.
Okay.
But yeah, brother. Over the years, I actually want to ask you and Dr. Halim, have you? I mean, this is a heavy topic now. Have you seen any type of I don't want to say additions, but anything that you would add or probably revise in your findings, far as Christianity and Islam and certain religions, and I don't want to overload, but and also does astrotheology play any part in Isa or Jesus or Jesus or Yeshua or whatever his name was? And,
are you talking to me, Brother Alim, or Brother El? Which one are you talking to?
Both, but you first, if you don't mind, please.
Talking about me?
Yeah, that's have you found anything new over your past years? And also, does astrotheology play any role in the guy we call Jesus?
And when you say astrotheology, what do you mean by that?
It's essentially anthropomorphism of the planets. They putting people, they personalizing the constellations. So how taking the sun, for instance, and having the sun go through a journey, the actual the solar sun going through a journey of certain adventures, and pitting up certain constellations, and the sun visiting Scorpio or something like that, and they're making the story out of the actual solar system, and the astro, I guess, mean the solar system.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I've found over the years, I found a lot of new information, and a lot of the new information I'm bringing forth is in the new book that my wife and I is writing called Dispelling Myths of Ancient Egypt. And some of that new scholarship that I'm bringing forth, like I mentioned on this show tonight about our ancestors creating music from their culture, came the scale, do, re, mi, so, fa, la, ti, do, and so forth and so on. And that's all new. And also in telling them about how the European created the chronology of ancient Egypt. Our ancestors never wrote a chronology of themselves. They have a chronology of ancient Egypt. They left us an immortal legacy in stone, papyrus, art, and literature, and so forth and so on. And I'm telling you about, Manuel Crasolas going into Florence, Italy in 1397 to launch what is known as the Renaissance era of Europe. That's new scholarship. I'm telling you that the Europeans only have literacy in Europe for 619 years, beginning with this year, 2016, so forth and so on. So there's a lot of new information that I'm bringing forward. But getting back to you, that goes astrological theology. That goes into the astrology and so forth and so on. I cannot improve anything by way of astrology myself. I can't do that. I don't use that. That's not my discipline of study. So therefore, I would say no. I'm talking about human history. So you have to take what I'm telling you based on human history as to the facts of human history as to what happened. And if an individual wanted to research behind what I'm saying, go for it, you know. And if you find me wrong or whatever the case might be, call me out on it. No, nothing wrong with that. But anyway, that's what I have to say to that.
Yes, as far as I'm concerned, brother, no, I will not change anything but what I've learned and constantly learning. You know, I will not change it. Brother Aleem and I, we study about the same thing. And, of course, Brother Williams and I, we all study the same thing, although we have somewhat of a different understanding, you know, but we are still on the same course.
Correct.
That's my stand on that. But I won't change anything.
That's mine. That's right. That's mine too. And of course, every day I keep learning new things, and some things I keep in the back of my head in order to see if it fits where it fits that in the piece of the puzzle. Because this is actually what we're doing. We're trying to put the pieces of this puzzle together. Because, as Professor said, there's so much disinformation, misinformation, and we're just trying to make sense out of it all. Pulling out that which is factual and true and historical, and that which is fiction, fantasy and and beliefs. That's what we're doing, and we will continue doing that, to the best of our ability. I can't wait for the new book to come out. I won't buy it because I have both his books already, and I was expecting the historical origin of Judaism because that's what he discussed the last time he was on the show that he was going to try to put that out, but him and his wife don't put a new one together. So when that one, what the estimated time that you think that's going to be done?
Oh, that's going to be should be in the beginning of the summer, I believe. Otherwise, about 4 months from now. It should,
Okay.
Put it like that.
Excellent. All right. Well, everybody, y'all heard it. It's going to be about 4 months from now. We're just going to be able to get another phenomenal book from Professor Walter. I know he definitely had an impact on my life. Like I stated, I got both his books now, and I've been going to his lectures off and on for years. So definitely keep doing your research and your studies, and we're going to call it a night. Any closing remarks from Professor Walter Williams?
Well, I'm glad to be invited onto your program, Brother Aleem, and I'm glad to have met Brother El, and I hope I can be invited again back on your show where we can continue our conversation and continue to bring new information to our African community in order for them to grow, you see. So thank you again. Thank you both for being great hosts to me, and I appreciate everything. And like I said before, people can email me at ancientegyptian@msn.com. Put your phone number there, and I'll call you back.
All right. We're going to say peace out. This is First Water Radio. Your host, Dr. Aleem Bey, co-host, Brother Valentine-El, and we out, y'all. We love y'all.
And also co-hostess. Hey.
Oh, hi, the hostess. Hey, don't leave her out. You should have spoke up earlier, my dear.
Oh, and my other co-host, and my other co-host, my beautiful wife.
Is that your wife back in the background, Brother Aleem?
Yes, that's my beautiful wife in the background there.
Okay.
I apologize for that. I didn't know.
All right, always bring your wife out.
But definitely, I want to thank her for coming on and getting the information out also. You have some closing remarks?
I do, and no apologies necessary. Everybody knows I pop in and out at times. I hope y'all can hear me. I just want to let everybody know while we're on the line that Brother Tahaka connected us with Brother Walter Williams, and he's one of the Moors trying to bring the Moors together and help get the bugs out. So he'll be on the show on next Wednesday at 8. I'm just so grateful, Brother Walter Williams, that you came on. I look forward to the book. It's beautiful that you and your wife is doing it together. Also,
thank you.
You're welcome.
And as always, how do you sign off, or how do you address our African audience? You said Hotep?
I always be like,
Now, here's what I want you to do from here on out. I want you to add yourself. Mayat Hotep. See, Mayat is female. Hotep is male. So therefore, the female and the male balances each other. Like you and your husband, Brother Aleem. Aleem is male and you female, so you all balances each other. So you have to bring the female in there, and I always bring her in by saying Mayat Hotep. I address my audience that way, and I sign off that way. So from here on out, it's Mayat Hotep. Add the female to the equation.
Sounds good to us.
Okay. All right. No, Mayat Hotep.
Peace.
Mayat Hotep.
Mayat Hotep. Okay,
Hotep.
Brother L, get on the bandwagon. You talking about peace? Hey, Mayat Hotep.
Brother L, you heard the elder now.
All right. Islam. Peace.
Like, look, I have to get into it. But before we go, family, real talk, we have a conference that's coming up. It's our 16th annual conference. I'm going to announce it every time we're on the show, every Wednesday, and other days that we're together. It's our United Watch the Talk conference. I'm so excited. As y'all know, we're in our own place, so we won't be Europeans or Arabs what time we need to be out, because we don't have to be out. Some people stay in a hotel up the road. Some people stay in a tent on the land or one of the trailers. Well, right now the trailers are full, so you either have to get a hotel room or stay on the land in a tent. We will be having Brother Kwame there, who's going to be doing a sweat live. You'll be getting a chance to be inspired by our store and our temple so that you can do it in your own space. So I'm really, really excited about that. That's March the 18th, 19th, and 20th. You can go to the website, dralemelbay.com, to the calendar of events, and you can also reserve your space there. Another thing that I'm so excited about is our ancestral teas. We have ancestral teas, y'all. It's for male support, also for feminine energy. It's called Pleasant Tea, because a lot of times when we're PMSing or we're on our menstruation, we're losing a lot of iron and minerals and nutrients. And then also, too, we're not getting the nutrients that we need because of the lack of nutrients in the food until we can step up and start feeding ourselves, and also in the lack of oxygen in the air from the chemtrails. So with all that being said, make sure that you're detoxing and cleansing, and we have provided some products to see how can your people support you if you don't have what they need. So that's what we're striving to do, have what our people need, and it's in being a capacity in which is good enough for us. So I wanted to make sure I gave that announcement. And my happy host, Brother L, let's say it now. Let's honor the elder.
All right.
Mayat Hotep.
Hotep.
Mayat Hotep. All right, we love y'all so much, and we just appreciate y'all support. And thank you.
Much love.
I don't need to be a dope boy, my poetry is dope enough. Travel interstellar while my third eye open up. See through all the lies that y'all tell it with a straight face. Return of the luminous ones. Y'all better make way to find a chapter. Find a collapse on all you politicians. They politicking how to lead a world, no pot to piss in. The way I think is more deep and in the Grand Canyon. I guarantee this black man would be the man standing. My premonition matched the OMAC calendar. It's always accurate like a lightweight challenger. For all you wicked riches and the Wizard of Oz, you and that man behind the curtain, yeah, y'all fixing to fall. Only a matter of time before shit hits a fan. Here's an idiot's guide for you on how to get a man. I don't need a bunch of homies to ride or die with me. I can call on Heru to fly the skies with me. Going through the transition and that's all she wrote. Put on my uncle, gave my Jesus peace back to the folk. Came back for ancient times to bring heaven on earth. I was the last golden child that returned to the birth. We going through the transition and that's all she wrote. Put on my uncle, gave my Jesus peace back to the folk. Came back for ancient times to bring heaven on earth. I was the last golden child that returned to his birth. When I'm riding on the city streets, never really miss a beat. To the point of no return, unless I turn another cheek. Catch me on my ditty box, smooth as I wanna be. Just being me, never chillin' with the wannabes. God in the flesh, dated bad since the legends. Because my history is more than they can understand it. My melanated skin, star brush from the astro. I'm made of dark energy created from black holes. Know thyself, the only one you can lean on. I got some scoopers that y'all can break y'all weed on. Our here's Martin Luther King and slave ships. But what about the underwater cities and spaceships? My mystical mind, we had the government covering. What if the old man tip will fly away like a mothership? We're African people, we're the real Anunnaki, wearing feathers on their heads just to brew feet taller than me. Through the transition, and that's all she wrote. Put on my auntie, gave my Jesus peace back to the post. Came back for ancient times to bring heaven on earth. I was the last golden child that returned since birth. We going through the transition, and that's all she wrote. Put on my auntie, gave my Jesus peace back to the post. Came back for ancient times to bring heaven on earth. I was the last golden child that returned since birth. Yo, don't look at me the same, I ain't nothing like I used to be. Upgraded daily through the lies and all the foolery. My dream became lucid, I travel back in time, collecting life data from my subconscious mind. That father let me know that anything is possible by pulling down the universe through my crown chakra. Manipulate the energy is all an illusion. Knowing who you are kills all the confusion. While 85% judge off my appearance, I use alchemy to create the world potential. My lyrics turn divas right back at the queens. While dope boys that think twice appearing back of the scene. Everybody gone mad, blaming media outlet. The new black Hollywood chosen straight out the project. Homo agenda war sucking up to the master, while the whole community going up in disaster. We going through the transition, and that's all she wrote. Put on my auntie, gave my Jesus peace back to the post. Came back for ancient times to bring heaven on earth. I was the last golden child that returned since birth. We going through the transition, and that's all she wrote. Put on my auntie, gave my Jesus peace back to the post. Came back for ancient times to bring heaven on earth. I was the last golden child that returned since birth.
Everyone likes data, because when you have more data, you have more freedom. Freedom to do whatever. That's why AT&T is offering you 15 gigabytes for $100, plus $15 for each line. Because the more data you have, the more freedom you can enjoy. Freedom to post more memories, download more fun, and share what matters most with who matters most. 15 gigs of data for $100, plus $15 for each line at AT&T. What more could you want? I sure can't think of anything. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Come in now and get the all-new LG V10, designed to capture, edit, and share high-quality video.
Pricing is monthly for service on smartphones on AT&T Next. Other pricing options available. Overage monthly and other charges and restrictions apply. See a store for details.